Hey guys, it's me, Seren, back with another video. As you guys can see, I took my braids out. My hair grew a lot while I had them in though, and I really like them. So I think I'm gonna let my hair chill for a couple days and then get some more put in. So I want like a big afro, and my hair grew a lot while I was in those braids. So I think I'm gonna keep braids in for a while. It's Wednesday. It's the other Wednesday, which makes it Hidden Figures Day. Today's Hidden Figure was actually requested by one of my subscribers that is from Brazil. They left this comment on my Toronto video about Carolina Maria de Jesus, and I went and looked her up, and she has like a really, really super awesome story, so I decided to do her for today's Hidden Figure. So let me just read a little bit before I get into the more in-depth. Carolina Maria de Jesus was a Brazilian writer who lived most of her life in a favela of São Paulo, Brazil. She's best known for her diary, which was first published as Quarto de Despejo, Dumping Room, published in English as Child of the Dark, in August 1960 after coming to the attention of a Brazilian journalist and became a bestseller. The work remains the only document published in English by a Brazilian slum dweller from that period. Carolina Maria de Jesus was born in Minas Gerais, a rural community where her parents were sharecroppers. She was an illegitimate child, fathered by a man who was already married, so she was treated as an outcast during her entire childhood. Now, I'm saying Carolina, but it might be Carolina, but I'm thinking Carolina. Y'all can let me know if you know how it's pronounced. When Carolina reached the age of 7, her mother, because I know in English a lot of hard I sounds become E sounds, like Diana becomes Diana, so I'm assuming that Carolina would become Carolina. Y'all let me know. When Carolina reached the age of 7, her mother forced her to attend school after a wealthy landowner's wife paid for her, as well as other poor black children in the neighborhood. Oh, time! Did you guys know that Brazil has the second largest, highest black population in the world after Nigeria? It is mostly niggas there. Don't let these fucking Giselle Bundchen. There is a very small elite ruling German class of white people that rule everything there. But that is not the majority of poor fucking Brazilians or black people. She stopped attending school by the 2nd grade, though she went long enough to learn how to read and write. Since her mother had 2 illegitimate children, her family was excluded from the Catholic Church while she was still young. In 1937, her mother died, and Carolina was forced to migrate to the metropolis of São Paulo. She made her own house out of used plywood, cans, cardboard, and anything else she could find, and she would go out every night to collect paper in order to get money to support the family, and would sell what she had collected, then go to the store and buy food. She would also find journals and old notebooks in which she began to record her day-to-day activities and about her life in the favela. It angered her neighbors to see her always writing. Even though they themselves were not literate, they felt uncomfortable with the thought of her writing about them. She was an attractive young woman and had many love affairs, although she refused to marry, having seen too much domestic violence in the slum and preferring to remain independent. Unlike many black women in that time and place, Carolina celebrated her race. She thought her skin and hair were beautiful. In her diary, she details the daily life of the favelados and bluntly describes the political and social facts which ordered their lives. If this sounds interesting to you, you guys should watch 3% on Netflix. Pro tip. She writes of how poverty and desperation can cause people of high moral character to compromise their principles and dishonor themselves simply to get food for themselves and their families. There is no chance to save money because any extra earnings must immediately go to pay off outstanding debt. This is how the poor remain poor. In August 1960, Carolina Maria de Jesus' diary was published after she was discovered by journalist Odalio Dantes in April 1958. He was covering the opening of a small municipal playground, and immediately following the ceremonies, a street gang moved in and claimed the area, chasing the children away. Dantas saw Carolina standing at the edge of the playground, shouting, "Leave, or I'll put you in my book." And the intruders departed. Dantes asked what she meant about her book. She was shy at first, but took him to her shack and showed him everything. He asked for a small sample and subsequently ran it in the newspaper. Carolina's story electrified the town, and in 1960, Quarto de Despejo, The Garbage Place, was published. It became the most successful book in Brazilian publishing history. Although written in the simple language of a favelada, her diary was translated into 13 languages and became a bestseller in North America and Europe. It was published in the United States and the UK as Child of the Dark, The Diary of Carolina Maria de Jesus in 1962. The book was heavily edited by Dantas, and some critics suspected that the diary was a fraud, but the original manuscript was preserved and reprinted whole in 1999, proving that not only did Carolina write it herself, but that she was a much livelier and more poetic writer than Dantas's edition even seemed to present. Carolina Maria de Jesus' diary detailed the grim reality of her life as well as that around her, and as such, raised awareness of the favela's conditions. Local politicians wanted to meet with Carolina and discuss some of her points, and the governor of São Paulo tried to begin the involvement of agencies to create poor relief. Most of these projects were dedicated to teach women how to sew, care properly for their children, and teach good hygiene. One of the characteristics differentiating Carolina from her neighbors was her unique perspective on life. Although living among the lowest classes of society, she had dreams and aspirations like those who lived most comfortably in Brazil during the mid-1900s. She was a woman who believed that her dreams could be realized, and against great odds, many of them were. She created a paradigm unlike any of her favelero counterparts and lived accordingly until she was finally able to move her family into the modest middle-class neighborhood of Alto de Santana in São Paulo. This is like some literal mind over matter type shit. She wrote 4 additional books after Child of the Dark, which were published without success, and she also dabbled in poems, short stories, and brief memoirs, none of which were ever published. However, Child of the Dark was read extensively both in capitalist areas such as Western Europe and the United States, as well as in socialist bloc countries like Cuba, the wide range of audience suggesting how many people her story affected outside of Brazil. For the liberal and capitalist West, the book portrayed a cruel and corrupt system which had been reinforced by centuries of colonial ideals instilled on the people. Even though we go through the same exact shit in the West, of course they tried to separate what was going on in Brazil from what's going on here. We're going through the exact same shit here. In opposition, for the communist readers, the stories depicted perfectly the fundamental flaws of the capitalist system where the worker is the most downtrodden part of the economy. As Brazilian historian José Carlos Sebi noted, many foreign specialists in Brazil year after year use her translated diary in their classes, which indicates her important role worldwide in providing one of the only primary direct factual accounts of what was going on in the favelas. Author Robert M. Levine describes how Carolina's words brought alive a slice of Latin American reality rarely acknowledged in traditional textbooks. And she died in 1977 in Brazil. So I'm going to go ahead and read you guys the quotes. I dreamt I was an angel. My dress was billowing and had long pink sleeves. I went from earth to heaven. I put stars in my hands and played with them. I talked to the stars. They put on a show in my honor. They danced around me and made a luminous path. Carolina Maria de Jesus, a hidden figure. Hope you guys enjoyed this one. There will be links in the description box. See you guys next time. Peace.